What's up guys, this is Sean from PlayByPause. So I'm gonna give you guys a heads up what's happening and why I'm doing this. So in the past video, Laowa lent their latest 35mm f0.95 lens and I have no idea what to do with it. I know I do a lot of comparison video, camera review, but I try to get out of my comfort zones and I want to try something new. So I was doing some research, thinking some ideas, writing scripts, and I stumbled across one of the videos from Matty Ortiz. The videos talks about does A7S III sucks for photography. This video kind of inspired me and I was thinking, if I use one of the best low light camera, the A7S III, paired with the fastest lens, Laowa 35mm f0.95, what will happen for portrait sessions? And this is why and how this video started. So let's talk about the setup behind there. So I was looking for a more moody portrait sessions with a simple and clean backdrop because I want to be more present and focus on the model. So initially I was planning to use a white backdrop over there, but I think it's not wide enough for a 35mm focal view. So I decided to change my plans to set up my own backdrop using white cloth and extend it to the floor. I also cover up the table using the white cloth so that I have a more consistent color tone throughout the whole photo sessions. Lighting wise, I love natural light whenever it's possible, so I'm gonna use window as my main and ambient lights just to fill out environments and give a key lights for my subjects. Since I'm looking for a more moody feel, so I might just close some of the curtain to cut down some of the light source. And I believe the A7S III and the Laowa 35mm f0.95 can handle these kind of situations. Aside from that, I plan to spice things up using red fill lights. There's a few ways of doing it. You can use RGB lights, red gels put on top of flash or even LED lights, or the way that I prefer, bounce lights. The way of doing it is pretty simple. You just need a big red paper attached to a light stand using the reflector clips. Point your LED lights towards the red paper and it will create red color bounce lights. The pros of using this method is simple and affordable. You can literally use any color paper in your place or LED lights to create these results. The cons of using this method is it's quite hard to shape lights because you can't add on any filter, you can't use bundle, you can't use grid, softbox, etc. So you definitely take more time to create these effects. So I'm gonna wrap this video up and get some rest. And I believe tomorrow is going to be a fun session, and I'll see you tomorrow. Alright, so the A7S III is well known for their low light performance in videos, but not a lot of people talks about their performance in photos. I have been using A7S III for a while and I do believe this camera is very capable in photography in many ways, but there's a few things you need to keep in mind. First off is a 12 megapixel camera, which means it might not be ideal for some professional portrait sessions because you will definitely need more flexibility and pixels for the final image. On the other hand, 12 megapixels is more than enough for general use such as contents in your social media. A lot of photos in our Instagram page were taken by the A7S III and I believe a lot of people might not even notice it. My tips of advice when using A7S III for photography is get everything right in front of the camera since you wouldn't have much pixel left to crop in post. Personally, I wouldn't have encountered much issue with that because I always try to composite and frame my shots the way I want. I believe you guys might have already heard that you should always invest in lenses rather than camera bodies. I do agree with these statements because a lot of times lenses make a lot more impact. An upgraded camera body may give you more functions and features such as faster AF, faster burst rate, more dynamic range, more focus point, so on and so forth, but all these functions does not have a big impact on the artistic standpoint, whereas the lens control in the depth, background blur, sharpness and the feel of the image. This Laowa 35mm f0.95 offers us some unique looks which we don't really often see from most lenses. Using f0.95 ain't easy for portraits because of the razor thin focus area, and I do agree that most of people wouldn't use f0.95 for a portrait sessions. It's just not practical in real world. Manual focus for sure is time consuming when compared to lenses with autofocus, but sometimes I do feel that manual focus can be a good practice for situations like a low light environment or even a backlit situations, because these are the situations where autofocus would struggle the most. Using the combinations, it allows me to have more lights in camera, and I can use between 500 to 800 for a low light situation like this, which is crazy because you can get a very clean and colorful image without raising your ISO. And the problem with higher ISO is the image will lose some detail, color, and introduce more noise. In most case scenarios, we love to use natural window lights as our main lights because it's so soft and nicely lit, but the problem with natural window lights is uncontrolled lighting conditions. So a lot of time people might just use a big soft box to mimic the natural light, but the problem with this method is the light might not be as soft as we wanted, especially when you're trying to create a moodier look like this. The f0.95 might not offer you the sharpest image, but it does create a vintage looks, especially when you're shooting a darker environment like this. Right now, Michelle has changed her second outfit and we are trying to create a fashion editorial feel. We are using the window as our main light, and I have decided to close part of the curtains to darken the background and focus more lights into the subject. Quick tips for using a manual lens, especially when you are using such a wide open lens, is to use focus magnification functions. This helps us to know exactly what we are focusing and ensure the subject is in focus. Ideally, we want to focus the eye for a portrait sessions because a portrait with eyes in focus will have more impact, more appealing, and draw more attention to viewers. Another thing you might notice in most of my images were taken with a shutter speed of 1/100, because the standard rules of thumbs for shutter speeds is equal or double of your focal length to avoid any visible blur. Theoretically, 1/60 should be good enough, but since I'm shooting a portrait sessions, I will use at least 1/100 to avoid blur results when my model moves. Right now I'm using ISO 3200, which personally I think this is the maximum ISO I can accept for photography. You can definitely push more than that, but I feel the noise is pretty noticeable after exiting ISO 3200. I snapped a few examples with different ISO just for a quick comparison. Honestly, I'm very impressed by the sharpness even in ISO 128,000, but obviously there's a significant noise in the image, and of course you can denoise in post, but it will degrade the sharpness at the same time. So that's the sacrifice you need to make if you are going to do this. Alright, so what's my thought or conclusions? Most of the time I wouldn't take photos with a low light situation like this, but this is definitely a fun project, and photo taken by the A7S III together with Laowa 35mm f0.95 were just fabulous and clean. A7S III offer you some nice detail in the shadow area, even if I underexpose my shots. And as for the lens, this lens is pretty pleasing to use because of a smooth manual ring, and the final image are very dreamy from this lens. Overall, it's an artistic lens and it was fun to share this combination with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this type of video, and if you guys do, let me know and I will definitely create more of this in future. So as always, create, learn, have fun. I'll see you guys in the next video.